Are you interested in buying a DAC but on a tight budget and feeling overwhelmed by all of the options available? Are you worried about buying the wrong DAC for your setup or just spending too much money in general? Well, my name is Aaron, and after reviewing several DACs this year, I picked the 5 best under $200 that will bring out incredible detail, clarity, and depth in your favorite digital music. But here's the kicker. I got so carried away while making this video that I actually threw in a 6th DAC that offers so much value for the money, I can't believe it's priced under $200. Let's get started now. For just $80, the SMSL SU-1 is a great option for anyone who isn't sure if they really want or even need a DAC. Keep in mind, an external DAC's job is to convert the ones and zeros in digital music to an analog signal that our ears can hear. But a lot of people aren't sure they will hear enough of a difference, so they just never buy an external DAC. Well, the SU-1 at just $80 makes it a lot easier to experiment. It uses the AK4493S DAC chip and has USB coaxial and optical inputs. Overall, it has a very lively and energetic sound and should help you hear a difference from the internal DAC in your playback device right away, especially if you are using an older CD player. It measures incredibly well on Audio Science Review, which was evident to me based on the dead quiet noise floor when listening. Like all the DACs I'll mention today, the exact sound signature for bass, treble, and mid-range will vary based on your system. But if you've been on the fence about whether or not an external DAC is worth the investment, the $80 spent for this starter DAC is really hard to beat. By the way, if you also want a DAC that includes Bluetooth and balanced connectivity options, check out the DS6 from SMSL, which is another great option at under $200. I think it's worth mentioning that I've personally listened to and used each of these DACs I'm mentioning today. Some of them I've even reviewed here fully on YouTube. I use DACs mostly with my CD transport, but all these can be paired with music streamers, laptops, CD players, and more. If you're interested in buying one of these DACs, you can do so using an affiliate link in the description box below, which will not cost you any more money, but the small commission will help support my channel. But most importantly, I would love to know what your favorite DACs under $200 are, so be sure to leave that in the comments below. The Modi was the first external DAC I ever bought, and after pairing it with my CD player, which at the time was a Cambridge AXC35, I really started to understand what the role of an external DAC can be, with the Modi bringing extra detail to playback and making music easier to listen to by removing any digital glare or sheen. Now, this Modi is actually an older version with an updated version currently on sale by Schiit for $129. Full disclosure, I haven't actually used the model they currently offer for sale, but my experience with this 3 Plus version has been positive enough to suggest considering the updated model if you are buying a DAC under $200. Now, I love using the Modi in my stereo system, but I also love using it with a headphone amp like the Magni, which I have here and use for headphone playback while working from home. The Modi sound isn't as punchy as the SU-1 mentioned earlier, but over time you will notice how it has great control over treble and never gets harsh or bright, which allows for longer listening time without getting fatigued. It's not the sexiest looking DAC on the market, but it gets the job done without any fuss. Now, one more thing, a lot of people are nervous about buying products overseas. The good news is, if you're ordering from Schiit Audio, they assemble all of their products here in the United States, and by buying direct from them, you're actually saving money and supporting a small business. I've owned several Schiit Audio products over the years and haven't had any reliability issues, but the good news is, if for some reason you did have an issue with the brand new Modi that you bought from them, it comes with a 2-year warranty. If you are someone who has spent a lot of time listening to vinyl records and you're interested in incorporating CDs back into your system, but worry they will sound too digital, then adding in the FiiO K11 R2R DAC will be a great option for you. Why? Well, the R2R design uses ladder resistors instead of traditional DAC chips, and this can give the sound a slightly warmer, more analog feel to it. Because R2R DACs require so many parts, they are often expensive, like the $800 Denafrips Aries 2 DAC, which is now my daily driver. But FiiO somehow managed to cram an R2R DAC into a product that's only $160. And I was blown away when reviewing this product at just how fun it was to use and how great it sounded at that price point. It has an organic sound with great sound staging. It comes across as a little warm, offering the same vibe as listening to vinyl records. Every other DAC I mentioned in this video will provide a more analytic, neutral sound, but FiiO will be a little more mellow and laid back in a good way. Also, if you want a DAC that's great for headphone use, the K11 R2R is a great option and can also act as a preamp should you need volume control. The only issue I have with the K11 R2R is that it's always sold out, and I'm not sure when it will be back in stock. I had to return my review unit after making my video, but I'm keeping an eye out for when they do come back in stock because I definitely want to buy one for my personal collection. Some DACs are so legendary at their price point that we forget they're still available while we go chase the shiny new object. Topping is a company that has really cornered the DAC market with products that perform and sound great at their price. Case in point, I bought the E30 which has two AK4493S chips for just $149. But there is a $99 version also available with just one chip. This DAC can handle USB, coax, and optical input and includes 6 filters for anyone who might want to tweak the sound signature more to their liking. It also comes with a remote control and can be used as a preamp with volume control. One more thing, unlike the SMSL SU-1 or the Schiit Modi, this DAC has a really nice display, which I enjoy. Topping always focuses on making products that measure well, and this DAC does, but setting that aside, it means the E30 might come across as more analytical and precise than other DACs. That's not a bad thing, as it often means when I'm using a topping DAC like this, I hear sounds and instrumentation that I've never heard before. Topping calls this a velvet sound for what it's worth. And velvet sound to me means that the music is heard with a slightly darker background than its peers here on the list. Bass, treble, and mid-range all perform great with the E30. Now, if you want to go wild, Topping also has an E50 version of this DAC that retails for $199. And I actually did a full video comparing the two if you'd like to learn more about the differences between the E30 and the E52 DACs. This is the Q11, a DAC recently released by Douk Audio, and there's one specific reason why I've included it on this list. It has one feature that's different from every other DAC that I'm going to mention today, and that is that it allows you the opportunity to swap back and forth between 2 DAC chips. That's right, there's 2 separate DAC chips in this box, an ESS and an AKM. Now, one of the biggest arguments in hi-fi is, do DAC chips really sound that different, and does one sound better than the other? Well, we're not going to go into detail with that here in this video, but the good news is now, if you've never owned a DAC before and you're worried about, should I get an ESS chip or should I get an AKM chip? ESS, AKM, I can't decide. Well, Douk Audio now lets you buy one product and you can swap back and forth between the two and determine for yourself if you think they sound that different, and if so, which one you like best. The fact that they were able to pull this off for just $170 is a great feat. Not to mention the Q11 supports optical, coaxial, and USB inputs with 2 sets of RCA and 2 sets of auxiliary outputs, providing users with a wide range of connection options. As you might guess, the Q11 sound performance is going to be similar to SMSL and Topping with an accurate sound that's neutral. And again, you can jump back and forth between the 2 chips to figure out if there is one that you like better. But keep in mind, chips are not the only important feature in a DAC. We also need to consider the output stage, and unfortunately the Q11 has differing output voltages for each chip in this DAC, so doing a true A/B test between the 2 chips can be challenging. Also, it's important to note the way that you swap between the 2 DAC chips when using this unit can only be handled via a remote control, so make sure you do not lose that remote. But again, if someone is just getting into buying DACs and is curious if there is a huge sound difference between chips, this could be a fun place to start. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I got so excited while making this list of 5 DACs that I actually ended up throwing one more contender in the ring, the Fosi Audio ZD3. Why? Well, at just $180, the ZD3 provides the most input connection options out of any DACs on this list by allowing you to connect Bluetooth, USB, optical, coaxial, and HDMI ARC, which is really impressive. As a DAC, it performs great with a neutral sound presentation that's right on par with the SMSL and topping models listed here. The ZD3 isn't perfect when using as a preamp, but just in regards to DAC performance, it's a great option, especially if you have other Fosi audio products to pair it with. Well, there you have it. Those are my 6 favorite DACs under $200 that I've personally listened to and used. Again, I would love to know what DACs in this price point that you've used and also recommend. Now, one of my most popular videos is one where I try to compare an $80 DAC with the sound of an $800 DAC and try to determine if I could really hear that much sound difference. If you'd be interested in watching that video, you can do so by clicking here.